Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is a podcast where a husband and wife team go over all the storytelling, world building, and characters of video games because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and this is episode 127.
Thanks for joining us at this episode where I have nothing witty to say after that.
That's good. Before we get into the episode, if you'd like to contact us, there's many different ways you can do that. Most of them are available on our website, loretogether.com.
Yay, we have a website.
But if you want, also down in the description, you'll find Instagram, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Reddit, YouTube, Steam, and Discord. And if you contact us via email, you can do that at loretogether@gmail.com.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys.
If you'd like to support the podcast, you can do that in two different ways. First is 5 stars, thumbs up. Wherever you're listening, whatever it is, we appreciate it. The other way is through Patreon at patreon.com/loretogether, where you can pay a per episode pledge to get early access to episodes, access to exclusive Let's Plays, which more are coming once I figure out all this computer stuff.
Oh, yeah.
As well as audiobooks that Safi will be doing.
Yes. I'm sorry. When Dragon Age has a game and I'm not able to finish it yet, my energy's kind of subsumed into that. But, yeah, we're going to do Primal Rage the Avatars as an audiobook, and I am happy to read it.
And, of course, patrons also get the ability to vote in our public Let's Plays, which is currently Mass Effect 2.
Yes.
So they can make choices for our Lorena Shepherd.
Yeah. We also sometimes have choices for our alternate live streams and even the cozy live stream that I do every other Tuesday now.
Yep. So plenty of things to get for your $1, $2, or $3 per episode.
Yes. Oh, man, we are rolling in the dough asking for that much. Oh, man, so much. But I don't mean to be sarcastic for it. Actually, we really appreciate anybody who supports us. So thanks for helping us continue to do this crazy little thing we do.
So before we get into the actual game, we're here because of a problem that I've kind of run into before.
Uh-oh.
When researching, especially older games, I've had to rely quite a bit on fan wikis for those crunchy details that either I don't forget or just don't come through in a Let's Play.
And they're crunchier than granola. They're like, I ate crushed asphalt crunchy half the time.
If you're working on a fan wiki, please don't add your well thought out and logical fan fiction and summations to the official story stuff, please.
Boo!
This episode we're doing now is one of my perpetual pickup script franchises, and we're doing a two-parter because I ended up writing way too much for this episode.
Boo. No, it's fine. It's fine. You did a two-parter, but I did not expect it.
I'm sorry you can't do a alternate world history and then flesh it out based on how you think things would have gone between the end of the game's version of it and the beginning of the game story. You cannot flesh that out by what you think happened.
Yeah, that's an AO3 story that you have serialized chapters for. That's not anything that
to the point that people were telling this person, please stop adding to our wiki. So
just remove them from the wiki. Like, just remove them. And if they come with another username, ban them. And if it gets too far, ban the IP. If they get a VPN, hunt them. I don't know.
Nope.
Hunt them down with a PI and I don't know.
So I've already told Safi a few things here in that it is a franchise we've covered before and that it is a two-parter. Do you have any guesses on what franchise this is?
Elder Scrolls?
No.
Okay, because that's definitely something. I mean, we did a 4-parter on that series. I know the Kingdom Come game has not had the sequel come out yet, has it?
I do not believe so, but
that
would not be one of my pickup script franchises.
Oh, that's fair. I totally forgot the name of the point-and-click adventure. I think that it is.
It is not.
It's not a point-and-click adventure?
This is in no way in shape or form a point-and-click adventure.
Okay. Oh, I don't... You know what?
We are heading back to Tyria.
Oh. Wait. So...
I'm waiting for Safi to remember what this game even is.
Guild Wars?
Yes.
Okay. I was so afraid I was like, if I get this wrong, I may be getting a divorce. Like,
We've
this-
dealt into the timelines of this franchise, both before the first game. We covered the entirety of the timeline from the beginning
Yeah.
up until the start of the first game.
Yes.
And then the majority of the second game and its expansions when we covered the Elder Dragons.
Yes.
Because they were the majority of the timeline for not only Eye of the North, which is the last expansion for the first game, but also through up until like the one of the more recent expansions for the second game.
Exactly.
They've been the biggest part of the story. We never actually did an episode, and in this case two, on the races of Guild Wars 2. We did blurbs.
Yeah, short little blurbs. That's right.
And so we're going to dive into the major races, and honestly, not just the major races, but some of the more notable other races as well.
Oh, man. Are we going to talk about the Skrit?
They are not in this episode.
Are we going to talk about the Quaggan?
They are not in this episode. We're only going to cover 3 main races and 1, quote, minor race this episode. We'll have more later of both of those.
Okay, sounds cool. I'm here for this. I love this. And it's fun because, Mystic, you're usually doing all the storytelling stuff, but this time you're actually doing a lot of the world building stuff. So, yay!
So we're going to kind of take it in pseudo-alphabetical order in that we're going to be covering our main races in alphabetical order, but I'll be peppering in some other races as we go.
Okay, sounds cool.
Not many, though. We're going to start with the Asura.
Yes, a favorite of mine, because essentially they are gnome adjacent, and I'm here for anything
Yes.
that is gnome or gnome adjacent.
I literally have a gnomish subterranean race.
Yep, those are my kinds of characters when I'm trying to play like an MMO or any kind of fantasy
Yep.
game. I love those dudes.
The Asura are short, about half the height of a typical human, with exaggerated cranial proportions and wide mouths with pointed teeth and large articulate ears.
They definitely look like that they like chewed on small, like they're small little scavenging kind of
Yes.
carnivorous kind of people with the way they, because they look super cute, and then you see their teeth and it's almost kind of like a hyena where it's like, oh, I don't know if I should be scared of you or give you a hug.
There's not much in the way, so we do get into some physiology. There's not much in the way of sexual dimorphism in this race. The real difference between males and females tend to be voice and ears, but females do tend to have a slightly softer bunch of facial features.
Yeah, it's a little softer for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Ancient Asura lived underground,
Okay.
and while they still had a penchant for inventing, loss of knowledge was a bit of a problem. They tended to be so closely guarded about their work that often no knowledge was passed on to others.
Oh, that's a problem.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
This is not as much of a problem now, but back in the early days, yes, big problem. Despite this, the ancient Asura had 6 massive cities and an expansive gate network throughout the depths of Tyria.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the central hub of this network was built over and powered by the sleeping body of the elder dragon Primordus, whom we talked about in episodes 91 and 92.
Yes, we did.
In 1078 AE, which is the calendar we use here, Primordus' dragon champion, the Great Destroyer, stirred from beneath one of the cities and used the gate network to send swarms of destroyers through the depths.
Well, that sounds dangerous and horrible.
Yes, this is actually the reason we meet an Asura in Eye of the North.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Great Destroyer annihilated much of Asuran civilization, forcing survivors to the surface until its death beneath the maw of its hibernating master. Since then, the majority made a home among the magical ruins found on the Tarnished Coast, where they quickly learned how to harness the magical energies there to advance their research and establish a foothold above ground.
Yeah, I think the closest you get to like the vibe of what they're going for is if you ever played Dungeons and Dragons and you played an artificer.
Yeah.
It's very much that the magical tinkerer. Like there is a science to
Magic.
Yeah, there's a science to magic, and I'm using it to basically make mage punk.
I like that. Mage Punk is good. The Asura are not fully pushed out of the depths, however, until Primordus' own awakening in 1120 AE, when other subterranean races, particularly the Skrit, were also forced out of the depths.
Oh, yeah.
The Asura have expanded the gate and waypoint network across much of Tyria, and therefore now hold huge sway in diplomacy with the other races. To the point, so like, I don't have this in my notes, but I remember this. There's a gateway in Ebonhawk, which is way off in the distance, like where the humans and the Chars are kind of still fighting to a degree.
Yes. Yeah.
They specifically will block Char from using the gate. Like, not all Char, but like, it's like they have specifically banned certain groups from their gate travel.
Oh, really?
Which, yeah, I mean, it's their gate travel. It's like, we're not going to let enemy combatants through this. So
Yeah, that's fair.
within Asura culture, there are some interesting beliefs. The most prominent is that of the eternal alchemy. Now, we did touch on this when discussing Kiara or Scarlet Briar back in episode 91.
Yes, true.
It is a teaching that all things, regardless of how small and insignificant or grand and important, are part of some cosmic mechanism. It encompasses not just the material of what exists, but also the significance of the interconnections between things, their ultimate fates, and as such, the meaning of the lives of all people as well as the life of each person.
Basically, we are an algorithm, and we are all just touching a portion of the formula.
Yeah. This is even the scale of the gods of humanity. Like, the human gods are just cogs in the machine,
Right.
just like all the other beings are. They're just bigger cogs.
It's just, I feel like it's a fancier form of deism. Like, something started the machine. We don't necessarily know what, but what really matters is that the machine's moving now.
Yeah. Ogden Stonehealer, one of the last of the surviving dwarves until a recent expansion, considers the Asura's attempt at quantifying all of reality to be the wrong way to look at it, and that by trying to define it, they're actually understanding less and less of it.
Right. Because, yeah, I mean, if you can, just because you can diagnose a person and know how their body works doesn't mean you know the person who owns the organs.
Right. Now, not all Asura actually follow this idea of simply studying the eternal alchemy. And the Inquest, a general rival faction to the Asura, and actually the main antagonist in the early game for an Asura NPC, or Asura PC, tend to view the cogs that make up the eternal alchemy as being parts of a machine that they can control just like any other machine. Their main goal is the use of the eternal alchemy to bend the world to Asuran supremacy.
Yeah, supremacy is a bad thing, guys. That's not anything you want. Let the record show that Lore Together is not here for any kind of supremacy. All right, just get off the soapbox now. All right, just want to say that.
In general, the Inquest are known for a lack of safety or even ethics in their experimentation and pursuit of this goal. Many enslaved creatures and crazy deaths, and in the starting area of Metrica Province, where the Asura character starts, there is a reactor that blew up, and it's the Inquest's fault.
Yes.
We do meet someone who worked at that reactor later on in the Living World seasons and the expansions. We'll cover those eventually too, but not right now. The Inquest aside, there's 3 different colleges that's basically the Asuran population can join up with.
Yeah, schools of thought, essentially.
Yeah. And the Inquest also recruits progeny too. In fact, that's one of the things you can do in the first map is interrupt them from recruiting young progeny.
Yes,
like, come
that is
join
very
the
true.
Inquest. And
it's so funny because half of your missions are like, the Inquest are just being jerks again. Can you tell them not?
Yeah.
And then you tell them not with your weapons. Yeah.
So we have the College of Dynamics, known for devising ingenious, highly unstable, and equally unpredictable contrivances, always on the bleeding edge of Asuran high magic technology. Members of this college believe that an experiment is only a failure if nothing is learned from it.
You know, a lot of scientists feel the same way about it. You can learn, as long as you learn something.
Yeah. Then we have the College of Statics. They participate in large-scale projects, such as building cities and the massive levitating stones that power them. Viewed as conservative and possibly myopic by members of the other colleges, they prefer to perfect well-understood tools, and the Asura owe the high performance and extreme efficiency of many of their standby technologies to generations of static development and polish.
What we have is good. We don't need anything more. We just need to make it better. Yeah.
And then we have the College of Synergetics. Their focus is on the study of patterns and mystical complexities over the development of concrete applications. Basically, this is impractical and idealistic according to most Asura. However, while this college boasts fewer tangible or at least less viable products, their theories tie the numerous fields of Asuran science and philosophy together.
I think Synergetics is the one I chose when I had an Asura. I think that was it. Anyway, but yes, no, I remember these vaguely.
Asuran society, in general, has some large groups like the Peacemakers, who are the military and police force, as well as the Arcane Council, which handles all the mundanity of Asuran life, basically the local government.
Yeah.
Generally, though, Asura work on small crews that handle projects and tasks. Now, working on these crews does lead to relationships sometimes,
Yes.
and Asura tend to practice serial monogamy,
Oh, okay.
in that they have a serious romantic relationship with only one other Asura at a time. Most of these relationships are equal partnerships, which often, but not always, have a firm, predetermined end date.
So it's like a contract almost.
Yeah. Most often, such relationships come out of two Asura who fall in love with the same beautiful concept. These marriages of the mind produce rapid development of ideas, increased conceptual paradigms, and or children. Relationships that break up tend to feature more fights about who gets the inventions rather than who gets the kids.
That feels wrong. I don't know how I feel about that.
Let's move on to the Char, and we have a lot more detailed history for them as they are closely interwoven with humanity for a good chunk of it.
Yeah, they were the bad guys for a while.
Yes. As opposed to the short humanoid gnome look of the Asura, the Char are large and bestial, hunched feline monsters. They stand on their hind legs and are about 1.5 times the height of a human when standing upright.
Yeah.
They do run on all fours, though, and have a tail that is annoyingly not always taken into account when ArenaNet does armor designs.
Boo. Armor for tails. Respect the tail.
Now, we've delved into some of the history of the Char way back in episode 45, when
That's
we did
true.
a very brief rundown of the timeline. We also did quicker episodes back then.
We did. We've gotten away from ourselves, and you know what? I'm okay with that.
But that was a very quick timeline rundown. So the Char began as a disorganized group of warbands fighting amongst each other for dominance of territory. Eventually, one Char stood above the rest and claimed the title of Khan-Ur, uniting the race in the Char's first and so far only true golden age. Though still primitive, the Char spread into other territories, moving into the now called Blood Legion homelands and Ascalon, taking land from dwarves, Grawl, and many other races. Eventually, the Char found a barricade to their expansion, humanity. There was also the Forgotten, but we are going to forget about them. In time, the Char began to blame the power of the human gods for the human victories. This led the Char to seek gods to call their own. And when the Flame Legion Burnt Warband encountered the Titans at the volcano Hrangmer.
What? Excuse me?
Hrangmer, Hrangmer, Hrangmer.
Yeah. Okay.
They had found them. The shamans, in particular those of the Flame Legion, became a ruling caste, and before long the Char were unified once more under their banners.
Okay.
One Char, however, spoke out against the Titans, Bathia Havocbringer. She led an underground rebellion against the shamans, but failed and became a sacrifice to the new gods.
Whoa. Okay. That's a way to get rid of the competition.
Her actions also led to the removal of female Char from the battlefield and being assigned domestic duties.
Boo. There's so many boos in this episode right now.
The war continues on and eventually culminates in the Searing, the event that starts off the events of Guild Wars 1. Again, we talked about this in episode 45.
Yes.
The Titans gave the shamans the Cauldron of Cataclysm, and the Char used it to call down the Searing, destroying the Great Northern Wall and allowing the Char to invade the 3 human kingdoms, Ascalon, Kryta, and Or. Ascalon was crushed. The newly formed White Mantle were able to prevent the Char from taking Kryta, and the sinking of the continent brought the war in Or to an end by basically killing everyone on both sides.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, what?
So, I don't remember the exact details, but basically, it's this last-ditch crazy effort by... I can't remember their name, but basically, they do this crazy ritual, and the content of ore just collapses into the ocean and sinks.
I'm going home and taking my ball with me. What?
So it does deal with the city of Ara, which is on ore. It's basically this crazy ritual. I can't remember the exact details, and I think it's called the Cataclysm, which is annoying because the Cauldron of Cataclysm was what the Char used, and it's two different things.
Wow. Oh, well, that makes sense. I could see the mix-up all there. Yeah.
The raising of ore is what prompts Zhaitan. Like, Zaitan's responsible for the raising of ore at the beginning of Guild Wars 2, like right before the beginning of Guild Wars 2.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, ore is big for that part of Guild Wars, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, ore sank, and all the Char and the humans die on ore.
Jeez, man. Intense.
In 1072 AE, the Titans were unleashed across Tyria due to the actions of Vizier Kilbron as part of the Flameseeker prophecies. Now, we're not getting into that right now. That's basically a whole separate thing from Guild Wars 1.
The Flameseeker prophecies sounds like a crazy fantasy series.
It sounds like a CW series.
No, it's if Riverdale met Avatar. That's how I see it in my head.
But the Titans were stopped and ultimately slain in front of the Char's own eyes by human heroes, including King Adalbern, the very same king that had blocked them before the Searing.
Oh, okay.
This caused a massive shift in Char society, but they were still fighting a war, and even that turned folly when King Adalbern again screwed up their plans with a massive self-sacrifice.
That just seems to be the one thing he was meant to do in this world. If you want to talk about the what was it? The Eternal Alchemy from the Asura? Yeah. That's what his cog is. Messing up Char plans left and right.
Honestly, yeah. So he used a relic of ore called the Sword of Magdair to unleash the Foe Fire when the Char invaded the city of Ascalon proper. The Foe Fire consumed the king and his tower, which collapsed.
Oh, jeez.
After the tower collapsed, the Foe Fire turned into an inferno of destruction, which engulfed nearly all of Ascalon in a wave of white fire. Every human consumed by the white fire died, and their bodies were basically blasted into fragments, but their spirits were forever bound to the land.
What?
Turning them into ghosts that you can still see roaming around today, fighting the Char and everyone else in Ascalon. That's why there are ghosts there, because King Adalbern was like, we are losing, we're going to make this fight go on forever.
Yeah, we can't. There's only one way that we don't give up, and it's by dying first. What in the world? Jeez, if somebody writes a fantasy story with enough creativity, you can get crazy stuff like, I'm too stubborn to lose this battle, so I'm going to become a ghost, so I will forever be fighting this battle.
So when you're going through Ascalon, through the Char home, like the Char first levels, and when you're running through Ascalon and you're like, why are all these ghosts here? That's why.
That's why. Because a king was like, self-sacrifice, a forever fight. Oh, man, that's insane. All right.
Now, this isn't taking into account. So there are stuff that does happen with these characters in the actual story. This is all just basically the base rundown.
Okay.
This is not, we get to, I think it's Living World Season 3 or 4. We do get more of King Adalbern. We do get more on, I think it's the Icebrood Saga. We get more on the Char, and we get, So there's a lot there. We'll cover them when we do cover, each Living World season and expansion could be its own episode, so we'll do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or two. I don't know. It depends. Some of them get pretty meaty. Season 2, not so much.
Like a chili? Meaty like a chili?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Titans have been shown to be mortal. That's a problem when they're your gods. So now, in a perpetual with human ghost that will never end, this basically spells the end for the Shaman cast. Your gods are not real. We're still fighting an undead army of spirits now.
Right.
You guys have screwed up.
Just the image of all these incorporeal people going rah for the rest of time.
Yes.
Can you imagine so in this fantasy setting, a lot of it is very much at this point kind of, I would say, close to 17th century technology. Can you imagine?
You get some weirdness that's future that to us even, but yeah.
Well, that's the mage punk aesthetic too, because there is some mage punk.
I
in
mean,
there.
the Char have giant cars made of spikes. Like,
yeah, and maybe that's more well, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like most of what they're doing kind of leans into the aesthetic of more of like 16th, 17th century inspired.
yeah, definitely the humans
stuff.
definitely the humans feel like 16th, 17th, maybe a little bit
And
early
even-
18th, but yeah.
And even when I think about the clothing worn by the other races, it's mostly that same thing. With
Yeah.
I guess, there's like one exception I could think of, but I won't get into that. Just think about what if they got to something that was like this modern era or postmodern this era,
Yeah.
where you're trying to build a city in Ascalon with skyscrapers and streets and everything. Are the ghosts going to obey traffic laws? Are they going to sign up for corporate positions? And if so, do they get paid more? Or like how to promotion? Or is everything run by ghosts because they're just there the whole time? I was like, well, I was fighting, but now that we've got civilization here, I'm just going to boss around all these Chars because I have 100 years of experience. I don't know. There's just the premise can go crazy in my mind.
So the Shaman cast, despite being not very well thought of at this point, wore a formidable force, and it wasn't until Kala Scorchrazor joined the battle with an army of female Char who had been training in secret for generations.
Yes, I love
the
this.
tides are turned. After the Flame Legion surrenders on the plains of Golgain, they were cast out of Char society, and females regained their place alongside males on the battlefield, as well as being more equal in society in general.
Yeah, don't just leave us home raising pups. Come on now.
The problem is, now, stronger than ever, the Char were able to turn their attention to the Ascalonian ghosts and the remaining humans.
Oh, yeah, that.
Still, things would continue to get complicated, and eventually the Char were forced into a treaty with the humans as they faced way too many enemies to focus on the one old one, with now you have the Flame Legion, who are not your friends.
Nope.
And you also have ogres encroaching on their territory.
Oh, no, forget that.
And they're still fighting the ghosts,
I love to be so stubborn. Like, to be fighting for over a century. Well, how long have these ghosts been on this land, actually, before I start exaggerating?
So the faux fire, I think, was during Guild Wars. I don't think it was either. Maybe it was. I don't think so. Oh, I don't remember when it took place because
but it was during Guild Wars 1?
I don't know if it was from Guild Wars 1. So you have to remember, there's 250 years between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2.
Okay.
And there's also 2 or 3 books that take place in that time.
Okay.
I think there's 2 books or 3. But yeah, some of the stuff is all coming from the book, so I don't know when those fall into the timeline because I haven't read them. I kind of want to get them.
Okay.
But so the Char are kind of stuck with a lot of this, and we kind of just end with them having kind of a fragile peace with humanity and the other races at this point because they kind of have to.
Right.
So, as you might be able to guess, though, Char are very militaristic. The whole society is built around military units, of which Char become a part of during early childhood. Non-military tasks, such as farming and trade, can be left to the young, retired, and injured.
Oh, okay.
But regardless of a Char's vocation, they always view themselves first as a soldier.
That feels wrong, but I'm also not a Char,
Yeah.
so...
The main identifier for any Char is their Legion. Ash Legion, Blood Legion, Iron Legion, and of course Flame Legion. We'll touch on all of those in a moment. The Char have no religion, as you might expect, given that their gods died before their eyes.
Like Klingons.
Yes.
We killed our gods.
They instead live by a code of military conduct, and cubs are brought up to respect the military hierarchy. Char join a warband in one of the legions, but may also be a gladium, one without a warband. Basically, the rest of your warband died, or
Okay.
you screwed up or lost them. Basically, the warband is supposed to be your family.
All right, so that's like your chosen family.
Yeah.
Okay.
A gladium can seek to join a warband. Basically, they have to do something to prove themselves. They can form a warband amongst themselves. Basically, gladium can get together and form a new warband.
Okay.
Or they can find roles outside the society, even rising to a high station like General Almor, Soulkeeper of the Vigil,
Okay.
who is like the highest ranked person in the Vigil for most of the story of Guild Wars 2. We'll touch on her in a future episode. However, they are generally considered shunned, though there is a worse punishment. Being a Gladium has some hope of regaining your honor.
Well, I mean, especially if the reason you're Gladium is because the rest of your group died. There's ways where that's definitely not just you guys being unprepared.
However, if you transgress badly enough, and I could not find a lot of examples of this, but there was one mentioned in a novel, your name can simply be stricken from history.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, one of the Flame Legion leaders or shamans, I can't remember which one. Basically, there's mentions of him in the human stories, like the human history and stuff. And the Char are like, I don't know who you're talking about. His name was stricken from the record.
Yikes. Oh, man. Okay.
Now onto the legions themselves. Ash Legion is the legion of spies, stalkers, and assassins.
Okay.
Yeah. They also tend to be cloaked a lot, which makes sense.
Everything's better with capes.
No, like stealth cloak, like invisibility.
Oh. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were talking about cool cloaks.
Either way, their tail would clip through it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Blood Legion is the rank and file of the military, the ones who are the frontline infantry and warriors.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Iron Legion is the place to find the engineers who build all the artillery, the giant mechanical war machines, and basically the giant city called the Citadel that the Char hail from. Like,
I'm trying to remember. Does it float or is it just?
No, it's just a giant mechanized ball essentially sitting on the ground. Like,
so they could roll wherever they could literally.
No, I don't think it ever moves. If it does, I missed that cutscene. But
oh man,
it is a giant mechanized city. It's weird.
Okay.
And cool, and of course the Flame Legion exist and seek to restore the shaman caste to its rightful place in Char society. Though more recent machinations in dealing with Primordus and Jormag, which we covered again, that whole thing, have softened the Fire Legion's potential future.
Yeah, the whole we killed the gods, so we don't need anybody to communicate to them anymore thing. Like, that kind of dampens any ability to getting back to that old power.
Yeah. So let's move on to our last major race for this episode, humans. Now,
oh, yeah, that's right. We have to cover them because they're significantly different enough in this universe.
But not that significantly different.
I mean, significantly different enough in the sense of how we understand human history.
Right. Yeah. But we covered all of that history in episode 45 for the most part.
That's true. We did.
So,
we did.
Basically, humans are humans.
Oh, great.
Humans are humans.
I see you did so much work on this,
Well,
Mystic.
in terms of physiology, humans are humans.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Look at yourself in the mirror. You know what a human looks like.
Yeah. They are quite possibly the most diverse race in this world, though.
That makes sense. I could see that.
Most of their races are more or less monocultures to a degree. Mm-hmm. The Asura may have the different colleges and the Inquest,
but the Asura also got murdered to a point where they're practically just a monoculture.
Right. But when we're looking at all the other races, like the Char come from different homelands originally, but they all come from the Citadel now.
Yeah.
The Asura all come from Rada Sum, at least the ones we see. We do find another city later on, but generally speaking, Asura are from one culture that we meet in the game. Later on, we'll meet the Norn and the Sylvari. They come from one location. The humans are all over the place, Yeah,
I like in fantasy, a lot of times humans are like the virus of kingdoms and empires. They're just like, oh, we found a place. It's got enough water and food. Let's just stay here now. Sorry, it's ours.
Yeah.
We put a flag in it.
Humans, like to really boil it down to broad strokes, humans arrived from nobody knows in Cantha. They appeared on Cantha.
I like the idea that suddenly it was just like, poof, here
pretty
you
much.
are.
Like, we don't know.
Like a Minecraft map being generated on the planet.
We do not know where they came from. If anybody knows, please let me know, because I could not find it. But we don't know where they came from in Cantha. From there, they make their way to Elona. From there, they get to Or, Kryta, Ascalon. And they still have people in all those places.
Yeah. Okay.
Very different cultures in each of those locations.
Interesting. Okay.
They are likely the dominant sentient species in the world, being the most numerous and widespread. Like, we do find Char way out in Elona, and they are different, but they're not a massive presence like they are, like the humans are.
Oh, okay.
It's like one tribe out there, like a lost tribe of the Char from back in the day.
Okay.
It's not, this is a continent covered with Char. This is a continent covered with people who look different than the people in Cantha and act different than the people in Cantha, and they both act different than the people in Tyria. So
right,
like,
exactly.
yeah, and there is one point that they don't really deviate on. I mean, they do a little bit, but most humans are still dedicated to the worship of the six gods: Balthazar, Duena, Grenth, Cormyr, Lissa, and Melandru. Each god is a patron of several broad areas, including, respectively, war, healing, death, truth, beauty, and nature.
Yes.
Pretty usual god concepts there.
Yeah, typical stuff.
These gods are credited with bringing the humans to the world of Tyria and have historically taken a large part in the development of the human race, often using their powers to guide the humans and intervene in historical events. Even after their departure from Tyria some 1,300 years before the present day, the pantheon of human gods were very much involved in the affairs of humanity for a very long time. They've gotten a little silent for the past 200 years or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They'd still answer prayers, but they are much more distant, letting humanity kind of stand on its own, which is a point that's actually made in the opening cutscene for a human player character.
Okay.
However, when we get into the different nations, things get a little more complicated. While the main six gods are, of course, revered, you have different cults and movements that have been birthed. In Alona, you have the Lich Palawa Joko, praise Joko, and that whole undead thing going on. We've talked about this before, I'm sure, but there's this great, like, season 4 of Living World was all about Palawa Joko.
Yes.
And there's this great cut that ArenaNet put up on YouTube of just all the voice actors doing their praise Joko lines.
But instead, half of them are like half-hearted, like
praise Joko.
It's just so funny, especially if you recognize like a couple of them are from Critical Role, so I recognized those guys, and I was like, "Holy crap, this is hilarious!" And then they have to like, they get punished for not being enthusiastic enough, and then they had to do the whole like getting zapped thing. It was hilarious.
In Cantha, you not only have the main gods, but the Celestials, beings made of starlight that embody the spirits of the stars, and the complete bane of my Guild Wars faction's life is I have never achieved Wen no Su. It's basically, you have to get to like this point in each of the campaigns in Guild Wars 1 to be able to travel and like, you're basically, you reach enlightenment, or you are advanced, or you advance in the ranks of the group you're in. In factions, you have to do this. It's basically these 4 celestial beings who are bosses. Each time you kill a boss, it spawns smaller versions of itself at the remaining bosses, and they also respawn. Like, the small versions also respawn. I hate it.
So wait,
I've never finished it.
So you... No, of course not. That's the most annoying idea ever.
And this is Guild Wars 1. So it's also a lot more Magic the Gathering style when it comes to your skill set and everything. You have to like kind of do a build and know how things interact.
It's
and
very crunchy. Yes.
Yeah. Guild Wars 2 is better in my opinion. Yell at me if you want. Like,
some people just aren't in the mood for crunching all on that. Yeah.
Anyway, aside from the Celestials, you also have the spirits and the dragons. It gets complex in how they all interweave is a bit. So yeah, they also reinterpret the gods based on local customs. So like not in terms of drastic changes, but like the visual interpretation of them changes based on where you're interpreting them.
Oh yeah, the practice and how they're worshipped, and I'm assuming, and all of that.
Yeah. You also have different factions in each of the human lands with, you know, I'm not going to go through all this. It's just going to be me throwing like a dozen more names at you. I'm gonna fade so quick. Yeah, we're not going to go through the Luxons and the Kurz. We're not going to go through all that right now. We'll go through that if we ever cover Guild Wars 1 expansions in detail. Yeah, because so Guild Wars 1, for those of you who might not have picked up on this, was literally just humans. You were only playing a human, which is part of the reason why half of the appeal was you got to pick 2 classes and figured out how to mix them together. And, you know, I shouldn't actually say expansions. So Guild Wars 1 only had 1 expansion, Eye of the North. Yes. Guild Wars also had campaign settings.
Yes, that's
You
true.
had Prophecies, which is the one that takes place in Tyria. Then you had, I don't remember which one came next. I think it was Nightfall, but it could have been, either way. Nightfall takes place in Alona, and Factions takes place in Cantha. Each of those games you can buy separately. You
Yes.
do not need to have Guild Wars 1 Prophecies to play them. They are
Right.
their own standalone things. You start a new character in each one.
Right, because it's based on you playing through the setting that they've provided in that
Until you
instance.
get to,
Eye of the North?
until you get to, in Factions, Wen no Su, or you get to, whatever, I forget what it is in Prophecies. You become you ascend to Spear Marshal, whatever, in Nightfall.
Okay.
But when you get to that, that's when you can take that character that you've grown up through the one campaign into the other campaigns.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that makes sense.
So rather than going through all that, we're going to settle on just 2. As far as Guild Wars 2 players are concerned, at the beginning of the story anyway, there are 2 main enemies for humans. Bandits and centaurs. All right?
Interesting mix there.
Well, they're not usually combined.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Bandits are self-explanatory.
Yes.
Or are they? Many of the bandits, though not all, are either led by or they themselves are remnants of the White Mantle.
Oh.
Yeah, we mentioned them before. The White Mantle are the one-time, albeit brief, rulers of Kryta.
Okay.
Their main goal is to get their rightful place as rulers once again.
How did we not see that coming? Oh
Sensing
my
a theme
gosh.
here with some of these enemy factions.
Yeah.
We're going to delve into one of the minor races here at the end, though, the Centaurs.
Okay, so that's who we're talking about today.
Yeah. They are, of course, also trying to reclaim their past glory, but they are trying to retake their lands, which humans have took when they first settled the continent. So that one I can understand.
Oh, wow. So they pulled a colonialism,
Yeah.
and the centaurs were like, okay, we choose violence. Don't do this ever again.
The Centaurs are, centaurs. Half human, half horse people. We
Yeah.
actually know some non-enemy centaur, including allies in both Guild Wars Nightfall and with Zed Shadowhoof, who is a centaur elementalist you can recruit to your party.
Oh.
He's seeking to rescue the leader of his pride.
Okay.
And Ventari, which I almost wrote as Venatori,
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah.
a centaur whose views and teachings become a huge part of Silvari culture. So more on him next episode.
Ooh. All right.
Much of centaur early culture is lost after generations of fighting the encroaching humans. Like, they've been doing this for
Centuries now?
over 1,000 years now. Like, it's
Oh, yikes.
1,200. Is it 1,200? It's been a long time.
Okay.
They used to be a major race in Alona even, until Palawa Joko rose to power, praise Joko, blah, blah, blah.
Ah.
And their claims on human lands have brought a lot of bloodshed. Or I should say human claims on centaur lands have brought a lot of bloodshed. The political structure of the centaurs has shifted with the long-lasting war, with the Modnir tribe taking the top spot in the hierarchy and the rest of the tribes basically acting as a giant army at War King Ulgoth the Mighty's command. We're not going to delve into the political shiftings and such that happen in the story. We'll get to that again in a later episode.
Okay.
The centaurs are generally a very spiritual people that combine nature worship with ancestor worship. That might sound nice, but this has always been a fairly violent
Oh.
belief system with rites that routinely end in ritualistic combat between tribes or individuals within a tribe.
So the idea seems noble, but the practice is pretty vicious. Okay.
The generations of combat and warfare have greatly hardened their point of view, which is fair. And so now their religious observations are even more violent, especially under Modnir rule, which is like the more violent and aggressive tribe
Oh, okay.
of the main ones. The war has had an effect on the typical centaur family as well. Generally, the males would hunt and protect the tribe's borders, while the females acted as guards within the territory and defended centaur civilians while administering to the day-to-day operations.
Okay.
As a result, males are more common on the battlefield, but as the conflict has dragged on, more and more females are being called away from the encampments to fight on the front lines. And unfortunately, this war has had problems. I mentioned Palawajoko and how Alona used to have Centaur,
Yeah.
and even so, Zed Shadowhoof was, I forget the actual name of his pride, but that pride is
Wiped
considered
out?
extinct
Oh,
at this point.
jeez.
Yeah. So, and there's no evidence of Centaur ever having been there when we get to Guild Wars 2, except for a huge amount of Centaur bones in the Bone Palace. So, yeah.
Oh, that's gruesome. Oh, man.
Yeah. So, that's where we're going to leave it for this episode. Next
Oh,
episode,
yeah, the gruesome part. Thanks, Mystic.
Sorry.
Uplifting.
I didn't want to continue on through the rest of the races. We'll cover the Norn and the Silvari, as well as some more of the minor ones, including a favorite of the both of us. So
Quaggan is a pirate. Yar! I will never get... That was, 10, 15 years ago now?
no, it's only been 11 years since Guild Wars 2 came
11
out,
years. So that first Halloween in those little Quaggan kids, one was a pirate, and I will never get over how adorable that was. It was just perfect. But that's not the only reason why I like the Quaggan. They're there's very interesting facet to them. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
we'll cover that next time. And yeah, back to Guild Wars 2 for us.
we'll do it.
Yeah.
Sounds fun to me.
So.
And that'll be 2 live streams. So heads up, we usually do on our Thursdays before we release an episode our live stream. But when this episode comes out in the morning of Saturday for public, we're going to be doing our live stream of Mass Effect 2 then.
Yes. Well, Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So because of Thanksgiving, we're not doing it on Thursday. So that's the only reason why I'm mentioning it right now, is because if you're listening to this the morning that this goes out, in the evening, you might be able to catch us playing some Mass Effect 2. After that, we'll be back to our Thursday schedule shenanigans. So the Thursday after this releases, we'll do our first Guild Wars 2 live stream.
Yeah, we'll figure out what we're going to do with that one, because it's kind of open-ended. We're talking not storyline here. So
yeah, we have the one character we already...
That character is way off in Cantha.
Yep, that's right. We did go straight to Cantha with that one. That's right. So, well, we'll figure it out.
Yep. Catch you guys then. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening. Catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.